So to start with, we're going to hear opening speeches from both sides, from Chris Pike of the No campaign and from Harrison Edmonds of the Yes campaign.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris. I'm speaking to get rid of compulsory sub-Fusc and gowns and mortarboards for student exams. It's important to remember that all this gets rid of is compulsory sub-Fusc and gowns and mortarboards. It will still be the case that students will have sub-Fusc and gowns and mortarboards because they'll need them for matriculation. That won't change. And it's important to remember that it is still every student's choice to wear sub-Fusc if that's what they would prefer to do in an exam setting. I personally would choose, in that situation, to wear sub-Fusc because I found it to be a good uniform for me that helped me relax in exams. But my preference on this is not a reason to keep the students who find it really difficult to work in that scenario and find that puts them off. That is not a reason to vote purely self-interestedly. There are very good reasons why we should get rid of compulsory sub-Fusc and gowns and mortarboards. First of all, we need to consider the effect it has on our current students, the effect it has on people who come from backgrounds which are of lower socioeconomic background, who haven't come from a background where they are constantly surrounded by people wearing suits, people wearing formal clothing, people for whom having to wear such a clothing in an exam is bizarre and makes absolutely no sense and just takes us back to the archaic and elitist history of this university. Please vote against no.
Okay, Harrison, you've also got 90 seconds.
Hello, my name is Harrison. I'm leading the Yes campaign to keep gowns and mortarboards for compulsory for examinations. There's a strong case for keeping them, and the first thing I'd like to talk about is this theory of incognition, which has been researched done by scientists, both looking at artists and other scientists, about clothing, the particular significance that can improve your performance when doing those activities. And I think the case can be made that academic clothing can improve your performance when engaging in academic examinations. There are some points about the No campaign and the idea of this referendum to do with both with access and choice, which I don't think that this referendum will help with. The thing about choice is that there is already a way in which people who, for whatever reason, can't cope or can't manage wearing sub-Fusc for examinations for whatever reason. I've been looking through the rules here. The rules here on gowns and mortarboards and sub-Fusc, and clause 7 actually has in it that there is a way in which those people can be excused. And I think one of the problems is with our series that we don't make people aware of these rules. We don't make people aware of the choices that are available to them, whether inside sub-Fusc or outside, in terms of what it is that you actually want to wear. And for those reasons, I think that this campaign, well, the No campaign at least, we have it a bit the wrong way around. That really, we can still give people the choice within the rules as they stand.
Okay, thank you very much. So what we're going to do now is we're going to throw it open to some questions from the floor. Try and get your questions quite short if you can. So if anybody's got any questions, just raise your hand. And a reminder, can I have name, college and preferred gender pronouns as well. So I'll take 1 and 2.
Tom Roger, so you again. Just very short, actual clause 7 of what, and can you find it online?
It's clause 7 of this, the regulations related to academic dress made by the Vice-Chancellor as authorised by Council. You can find it online. I wasn't able to find it, someone else told me about it, and I think that one of the problems is that we just don't know about this thing. And that if we just make people aware of what sub-Fusc is, the different rules about what you can actually wear, and ways you can get, you can opt out of it, I think that would be far more helpful, and a lot of the grievances people have would be addressed without actually having to make it non-compulsory and lose, actually, in being in danger of losing sub-Fusc at exams like Cambridge has.
I should also say that questions have to be asked to both campaign leaders, so I'm going to let you just comment on what you think about that.
I've been reliably informed that it's available online.
That'll do. Okay, so Anna?
Anna Bachelor, Wadham College, Sheha. Could you comment on any gender implications that you think your side of the argument might play into?
I think this is a really important point to consider. It is often the case that men who arrive at this university, not all men, but particularly men who aren't from a particularly low socioeconomic background are likely to have worn formal clothing, suits, etc. In different contexts, both academic and social, before arriving at university. The continuation of wearing something similar to Subfusc will not be a big surprise or a big change. For women, the outfit is weird, and it involves this weird bow thing, and it is not similar to clothes that have been worn by most women beforehand, and so it creates a sense of a big difference. Yeah.
Okay, so Harrison?
Well, the Oxford did a poll on this last week, and that poll actually discovered that men and women were both just as likely to support Subfusc. I think that also we need to keep in mind that gender restrictions have been lifted, and that there are, people from different genders can wear, different clothing that wasn't normally associated with them. And I think that over time, the association of suits as being masculine will change in the same way that jeans have become not necessarily being masculine but more unisex. I think trans issues do play a hand. Are involved to an extent, but I think again there has to be reform inside the system as to what actually constitutes Subfusc to solve that. And already we're seeing suits being tailored specifically for trans people and for trans customers. And I think in the long term that will lead to improvements, but in the short term there is still a way that people can have this choice.
Okay, Jack.
Jack Hampton, St Catherine's College, here. Firstly, could you comment on the process of how you opt out under the existing rules? And then secondly, more applicable to Chris, could you comment on how equivalent you see the process is to it being non-compulsory?
Well, the clause says the properties shall have power on request to grant dispensation from any of these regulations to any person who in their opinion has reasonable grounds for seeking such dispensation. So I think that it doesn't actually make clear how that can be done, but I imagine that there are ways, ways involving emails or electronic or getting into contact through the Students' Union or through JCRs, which make that possible. And I think one of the problems is that people just aren't aware of this. And I think if people are made aware and we sort of say this is the channel you can go down, I think people will take that option and be given that choice.
Yeah, Chris?
So I can't really answer the first question, but I think it clearly is the case that that clause needs to be communicated, and there may be some students who feel so uncomfortable in Subfusc that they will choose to go down that route. But I don't think that's the case for the majority of students who wouldn't want to wear Subfusc. What we are calling for is not to create the reverse of that, whereby you have to opt into Subfusc. It is purely your choice what you wear to exams. I'm confident that there would be a lot of students who would still want to wear Subfusc to exams. If I was still a student here, I would choose to wear Subfusc to exams, but it's about creating the choice for each individual as to what they want to wear in that context, and so I don't think it's comparable at all.
Yeah, and we'll go for 1 and then 2.
Corinne Zahavi, St Shiva. So you both kind of spoke a little bit about having it as an optional thing, or like some people will wear it, some people not. What do you think might be potentially kind of pressures that people might feel to wear it or not wear it?
That's a really interesting question. I think there could be pressures on both sides, to be honest. I think there will be pressure from people to wear the clothes they normally wear. There'll also be pressure from people to keep up with the Oxford traditions. And I think it's important to remember, it won't just be pressure to wear your standard clothes. There will also be pressure in the same way we face pressure on all sorts of different Oxford traditions. They need to go to summer 8s, they need to go to May morning. There's loads of different ways in which we're pressured to get involved in Oxford tradition, and I think that won't stop here. And there will be pressure on both sides, but I still think this is better than the point where we are actually controlled and required to wear Subfusc. So it's not even a pressure, it's just not an option.
And Harrison?
I will agree to an extent with Chris in the sense that there will be pressure on both sides. We'll sort of be seen as somebody who's being uncool and you look like a silly penguin, and therefore it's called uncool, don't wear it. Other people are saying it sticks to tradition. I think in many ways the rules as they currently stand do give people that choice, and I think that the pressures that do come with that, if we make people aware of these other options, I think that would lead to any sort of stigma or pressure sort of being dissipated if it was made official and actually sanctioned by us who's saying this is the way you can do it and there's nothing wrong with it. In the same way that, well he seems to put people for example, but the same way that vegetarians can opt out of meat, meat deals if there's any sort of prejudice. I'm not coming across any prejudice against vegetarians.
Yeah, okay.
This is more, Tom Barringer, yes. This is more applicable to questions, so that's, to your knowledge, does no campaign have any sort of information to support its case? Sort of testimonials from either people who feel uncomfortable with Subfusc or people who were turned away from an Oxford application because of the knowledge of compulsory Subfusc,
or statistics saying the same? Because obviously, I'm sure both of you are aware of the kind of the stereotype of the No campaign being a load of public school boys being vaguely patronising towards state school kids just because they're scared of posh things. And I was wondering if you had any information, if the No campaign had any information.
So I don't have that information. I think there are people who are more involved in the... I've had to fill in for Zav, who's leading the No campaign, and I think he probably has more information than I do. But I can confirm that we have multiple testimonies from people who are involved in the campaign. I don't know about data from current potential applicants, but I do think that there is evidence to show, testimonial evidence, to show that this is something that people really care about, this is something that has affected people, and I certainly don't think that this is a campaign full of public school people patronising and being paternalistic towards state school people. From what I know quite a lot of people involved in the No campaign with me, and I think it's a very small minority, if any, who did not go to state school.
Yeah, Harrison, sorry. Harrison.
So, I mean, I agree with Chris in the sense that I don't really think that stereotype is founded in the No campaign, at least from my experience being on the side. I will say on the basis that we both have anecdotal evidence on both sides of this. I have people on my side who said that it's the reason they applied here, not Cambridge. Sufferers from OCD who said that seeing other people in sufferers and they being in sufferers helped them order themselves before the exam. The thing is, though, is that, and the No campaign admits it in its campaign literature, there is no statistical evidence either way on this. And I think it would be far better if we actually did those studies before actually having this referendum, having this vote, so therefore we can make a proper decision with all the evidence and all the information.
Yeah, James?
James, like phrase knows he, him. On balance, is sub-Fusc good or bad for access, and why?
Harrison?
I would say it is, in the sense that the idea of what sub-Fusc represents does change. And previously, nobility and aristocrats were allowed to have little tufts on, it's where we get the word toff, but they were taken down because of the idea that sub-Fusc is meant to be the meritocratic thing, to represent students who have earned the right to study at Oxford, not aristocrats. And I think that as the changing makeup as Oxford changes, and again I will say there's no sort of evidence either way on this on the access side. Cambridge has got rid of it for exams, so it's the same access as Oxford has. That it will only sort of be seen to be a meritocratic thing that people have earned the right to wear. It won't be seen as being the domain of the white upper class, heteronormative, cisgendered man.
Yeah, Chris.
I think the on balance is important. I can't speak for everybody from a background where they were put off applying to Oxford for whatever reason, and as we've already discussed, the evidence isn't there, and I certainly don't have the evidence. I do think there are good arguments as to why sub-Fusc is bad for access. It is completely out of line with every other university in the country. We are a university that has a reputation for the suit-wearing, port-swigging individuals who, in people's perceptions, dominate this university, and I don't think the image that appears in the Daily Mail every single year of students running out in their suits to champagne being thrown on them is particularly helping access. But as I say, I'm not claiming to be the voice of this nation's working class.
Yeah. Any further questions? No, okay, I'll let you.
I've got one question, one very, very quick follow-up point to the other question. Are those testimonies available online, publicly? The testimonies that you said your friend speaking from the campaign that Chris had accumulated.
So actually, I can just direct that to both you in terms of your testimonies and things that are online. So Chris.
They will be. We just recently started the campaign marketing and getting out the information and stuff, but yeah, there will be testimonies available.
Harrison?
Some of our testimonies are online in the form of Oxford articles. The others we are hoping to make online at some point, either through our Facebook page. I must admit that me and the other people running are somewhat technophobic, and we have very little experience with this sort of thing. We will be producing stuff online that people can look at.
I think we've got time for a couple more, so I'll take one and then two, and then I'll call it there. Yeah.
Jack Hampson, St. Catherine's here. This is like a short factual question, really. But have you talked to the proctors about what they see as constituting reasonable on the reasoning for trying to become exempt from wearing sub-Fusc? And if you haven't, surely that's something that you really should do if you want to put it forward as an argument why it is the same thing. Well, that the means already exist, which is what you are claiming. I know that's not that is directed, but I answer.
Yeah, I'll let both of you comment, but yeah.
I haven't approached the proctors. I only sort of came across this information a couple of days ago, and I've been busy with sort of exams and stuff, and I think that will revision and essays, and I think that implies the fact that this isn't very well known about. I think that if I was to show, pressure the proctors or pressure the university to say that we have this thing in here and we want to use this as a way for people to opt out, I think that we would be able to put pressure enough on the university to review or to at least change what it may consider or what it may not consider as reasonable dispensation. But I think that is something that would be a better solution to the No campaign, which could affect to see Fusc, for example, just disappear as it has done in Cambridge.
Yeah, okay, and Chris?
I haven't talked to the proctors on this issue. I do talk to the proctors and certainly the assessor a lot within my role, but I don't think it would be a fair advantage if I use my sabbatical officer status in this debate to talk about my experience with the proctors, so I won't comment any further.
Okay, and last question from Anna.
I have a question that has a term in it, so is it okay if I ask if they know what the term means first? And if not, I'll explain that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Have you heard of stereotype threat?
No.
Okay, so very, very briefly, this is like studies that have been shown where if you make somebody who is, for example, a woman or somebody who's from a black minority ethnic background, any kind of sort of underrepresented or oppressed group, you like remind them of that. And most of the studies have been done with women. Before they do some kind of test, they do worse. And there isn't obviously studies on Oxford, but like women, if you get women to tick their gender before they do a maths test, they do worse. It's that concept, broadly. And so my question is, do you think that stereotype threat is something that we should be considering when we talk about sub-Fusc, given the sort of lingering gender implications that you both talked about well earlier?
Yeah, so Chris.
Yeah, I think that's a really important consideration. As we were talking about, the dress that is usually worn, the outfit that is usually worn by men is much more similar to what people have worn in the past than what women have to wear as sub-Fusc. And I think that reflection of the otherness, of the difference, will play into stereotype threat. And the same thing could happen to international students whose general dress in their home country is nothing like what sub-Fusc involves. There are lots of different aspects that this could cover, and I think it's a really important consideration to make. I'd also like to say, seeing as we went back to gender stuff, that when I said not all men, I was referring specifically to the intersection with class, and I'm not a men's rights activist.
Right, okay.
I think that the stereotype threat was it. I think that it may be an issue, but I think as time goes on, it will become less and less of an issue in the sense that these gender restrictions have been removed, and I think that the idea of what a suit represents will begin to change as women choose to wear trousers or choose to change what it is that they wear. In the same way, I give the example of other clothes that have had that sort of the shift of what people see them as representing will change. I think that in many ways, sort of the whole idea of gowns, I mean, I did go to a private school and I have never worn a gown before I came here. I'm not sure how it works for other private schools, that may be the case, but I think for many people it will be in the same boat of wearing something that they've never worn before. And I don't really see that, as for the majority of people, as being something that does remind them of an otherness. Especially, I don't think, because sub-Fusc doesn't really have any sort of racial connotations to it, I don't think.
Okay, so questions are over, so we're going to move on to the third little phase, which is a new addition to the format, which is a debating phase, where campaign leaders are allowed to address each other's points. So Chris, you're invited to make a speech of up to 2 minutes. You're allowed to reinforce your own points, as well as address the concerns of the other side. And then Harrison's going to come back, then you're going to come back and give a closing speech as well, and then Harrison's going to do the same. So Chris, up to 2 minutes, off you go.
So I want to reiterate a lot of the points that have been made around some of the underrepresented groups within this university, in some cases of which are liberation groups, oppressed groups. We've heard about the arguments for why, about stereotype threat and about the gendered issues here, the potentially issues for international students or BME students on this issue. We've also heard about the potential consequences for access, and as I've said, I'm not going to claim to speak for those students who come from backgrounds where they've used access schemes, but I do believe that there is a high potential for the influence of this making this change and choosing to vote no on this motion for our future in access. But I think there's a more fundamental point which goes beyond just access, which goes beyond just targeting those students from the schools with very few people going to Oxford or Cambridge, or specifically to Oxford. It's a point about making a change and showing that we are a progressive university. Tradition is fine, but there's no point in keeping a tradition just for tradition's sake. And that seems to be the key argument behind keeping SubFusc. There is very little, like we have heard the reasons why it is not benefiting our students to have to wear SubFusc. We recognise how it is out of place with other universities which don't seem to be suffering as a result of not having SubFusc or gowns and mortarboards. I think it's really important that we ask ourselves, what kind of university do we want to be to the outside world? Do we want to be a university that's stuck in the past, that is forcing its, having its students wearing these frankly ridiculous, absurd outfits when they go to every exam? Or do we want to be the kind of university that's welcoming, that's inclusive, that wants to have every student who's able to study here involved in the university? Thank you very much.
Okay, so Harrison,
do I respond and then make counter points?
You can say whatever you want to.
and then make this closing speaking?
Yes.
Okay. We're not making the argument, say, to keep traditions for tradition's sake. I think we made it quite clear with this phenomenon of in-cloak recognition that there are benefits that are here. And if you use the example of what happened in Cambridge, SubFusc, well, their academic dress has disappeared from exams, and there was a threat that if the no campaign wins here, that could happen. The point that you made about to do with access and to extend the image is that Oxford will remain, even if we get rid of SubFusc for exams, we will still have SubFusc for matriculation, we will still have it for graduation, it will still be a historic medieval elite university, 26 Prime Ministers will still have been educated here, it will still have this image, the Daily Mail will still write articles having to go at us because we act like students. And I mean, even with the example of the Daily Mail article, actually the comments underneath, most upvoted ones, I wouldn't recommend for health reasons actually reading Daily Mail in my comment section, but the actual comments underneath, most people have seen through this and sort of thought it was a bit pathetic, the fact that they were doing this, but that's a bit of a digression. I think that these issues with gender stereotype threat will change as again, we have no evidence that this actually affects access. And if we just basically tell people and change the perception that SubFusc has, either in the way that we do access or through more people actually coming in from different backgrounds, which therefore will change the different people wearing it and therefore make other people see it as not being the domain of the white upper class male, I think that this is an issue that can solve itself and doesn't need this, which could threaten to destroy something just because of the fact that we don't have any idea if it is accessible, but we think it may be.
Okay, and Chris, final 2 minutes, and a reminder that this is also your closing speech.
2 minutes.
Up to 2 minutes, yeah.
Okay, so we've heard the scientific argument made by Harrison, which had a long name that I can't remember, but we've heard about how an academic dress can help in an academic context. Now, I've been at Oxford for quite a while, and I may have forgotten this, but SubFusc is not an academic dress. It is not the kind of thing that anyone else in any other academic context wears, with the exception of graduation, which has something similar. But that is not an academic context, in that it is not where you are being assessed, or it is not where you are being taught. I cannot see how wearing clothes which are uncomfortable for some people, which are off-putting for some people, and which are exclusionary for some people, is in any way helping them in their academic setting. We talk about how this does not have to be, the SubFusc does not have to be in the world of the white upper class male. But why do we think it was invented in the first place? Do we think it was invented when this university was flooded with, was full of women, of people from abroad, of people from ethnic minorities, and from people from working class backgrounds? No, it wasn't. It was created at a time with an elitist university, which was exclusionary, which was non-diverse. And what I want to say is that we need to draw a line under that time. We need to show that this is that traditions like these, which exist for no reason other than elitism, do not need to continue in this university, and we can send a message out to people that this is a university which includes everyone, which is welcoming to everyone, which wants people to be able to wear what they are comfortable with in the settings they are comfortable wearing them, We want people to be able to come to their exam wearing the clothes that they know, pump them up for that exam, make them ready for that exam. We don't want people to have to turn up in an outfit which some aristocrat centuries ago decided was right for them in order to perform well, when they never even considered the possibility that we would have even as diverse a university as we have today. Thank you.
Okay, and I will move on to the closing speech from Harrison. Up to 2 minutes.
Well, I agree in the sense that academic dress in Oxford is a medieval thing. There are arguments that have suggested that even the idea of the board on the mortar actually comes from Islamic scholarly tradition involving the Quran, but that's a bit of a divergence. It is true that is a medieval garb, or it originates medieval, but it has changed over time, and changes have been made as recently as this decade. Involving gender, and those changes can still be made. It can still survive, it can still be, things be added to what is considered academic dress for it to survive. I will point out that the actual universities that have done these studies, psychology departments now actually suggest to their, tell their the students doing exams to wear suits and to wear stuff, because they know that it will, on balance, improve their performance. As I said before, when it does come to choice, when it comes to the people where it will affect their academic performance, we do have means and a channel through which we can accommodate them and make things better for them. We just need to make people aware of that. And if we vote for this No campaign, we could see this sub-Fusc with this academic dress, which is beneficial to a lot of people, go away and be gone. And in terms of access, very little changing, because Oxford will still have this image of being elitist that is partly historical and partly because of the fact that sub-Fusc will still remain for matriculation and graduation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of the first debate.